everyone, and welcome back to the Motorgraph World channel. My name is Mari, as you know, and today we're back with another comparison, the Kia Picanto versus the Hyundai Casper. Let's take a look at both vehicles. So please bear with us that the Kia Picanto that we have today is a white color, has some scratches because it's actually a rental and it's not one of the most up-to-date versions. So please just look at the car as it is, and up here you can also find our previous review of the most recent Picanto. So please take a look as well. And now let's take a look at them both side to side. They're in the same segment, but in fact you really think that the Morning or the Picanto would be so much smaller, but if you put them side to side, there's not that much of a difference. If you get inside the car, there's even less of a difference. So let's first take a look at the Hyundai Casper. It's a very small vehicle indeed. There are a lot of features that are quite cute for the car, and I think that it's a bit too cute for me. Maybe it makes you think about the Ghost Casper, I'm not sure. But come down here and you'll see two round light type figures. The only headlamp and the daylight running lamp is here. This one is a fake light or a fake lamp because it's actually just an air intake for the inside of the car. This one as well, you will be very surprised to know that they are both blinkers or side lane changers, and you'll see them up here. The grille is also very plasticky and it's kind of like a matrix, and it's small and grid-like. You also have the vent down here and the bottom rib. Overall, it looks very cute. It's a bit more of an SUV type shape, but if you see it up in person, I'm 162 centimeters and you can see how small the car is. So if you look at the cars side to side, you can see the drastic difference. I think the biggest difference between the two models and the two brands is when you see from the profile, because the Picanto is much smaller, it's much more attached to the ground, and the wheels and the tires, I think that this is the most drastic difference between the two. For the Picanto, you have 14-inch wheels, and as for the tire width, at the moment it's 175. However, if you see later on the Casper, it's 205. If you look at the top portion and bottom portion, the Picanto has a much larger base at the bottom and it's smaller at the top. That's why you see the windows being slanted and being a little bit lower. Because the proportions for top and bottom aren't as drastic as you see on the Picanto, you have much wider space for the windows. I think that if you get inside, you'll have a much clearer line of sight when you're inside the Casper. So now let's take a look at the back face of both of the cars. Well, the Morning or the Picanto is quite generic and it's an old-fashioned, very small micro-segment car. There's nothing that much new about it. So the Casper, you have these parametric lights, once again, the design aesthetic of Hyundai Motor Company, and it's all applied at the back and it's quite clean. Let's try the Mari trunk test if it works on the Casper. So I can fit in, it's very narrow, and if you lift this and fold them up, I think that you'll be able to have more space. But there's a big dip here, so if you're trying to haul luggage and put them in, it might be a huge climb inside. Let's check out the Picanto. I must say it's much easier than the Casper. And you can still fit me. I must say, it's a little bit roomier, in fact, compared to the Casper. Slightly. I mean, they're still very small, but still, I feel a little bit more comfortable in the trunk of the Picanto compared to the Casper. However, there is a catch, and there is a specific function that allows you to have a little bit more space on the Casper. Let me show you. You can actually slide forward the second row seats, and then you'll be able to have a little bit more room. And of course, you can fold up the second row seats too, so that will give you a little bit more space in the trunk. Let's try getting in one more time. And now I feel a lot more comfortable inside. I can actually just sit with my legs crossed and it will give me more than enough space. It's definitely much smaller than what you would expect when you're looking at the car from outside. When I first saw the pictures of the Casper, I thought that it would be a pretty large, small-sized SUV. When I first saw the exterior, I was surprised at how small it was, actually. And then afterwards, when I got back inside the car, I was surprised once again how small it actually is inside the car. Comparing it to the Picanto, the actual space is very similar. The overall materials, they're very similar as well. But it feels that Casper is a little bit experimental for the Hyundai Motor Company. So let's take them one by one. First, with the driver's seat and the line of sight. It's very clear and it's quite nice because of the tall windows that you have. And now the seats. The seats are bench type seats, so they're connected with the passenger seat and the driver's seat. You do have this armrest, but you can actually push it back and you can just use the entire seat as the bench seat. However, ironically, if you adjust your seat position, you can't actually make use of this as a bench type seat because I can't get through here. So I have to push the seats all the way back in order to be able to use these seats as the bench type seats. I said they're experimenting. It seems that they are. The seats are leather. So artificial leather, and the middle part is perforated. They have two tones in color. You do have some orange highlights, but this is different for every vehicle. I've seen others that have different accentuations with the colors. And now when you're adjusting your steering wheel, you can only go up and down, not telescopic. It doesn't pull out or in, it's just up and down. And this is the farthest down you get, and up is here. So not that much of an adjustment. And now coming back down to the dashboard. Now this digital dashboard, or you think it's a digital dashboard, but in fact, there's only the digital panel in the middle. And it's kind of like a very, very small smartphone monitor that you have in the middle that's actually digital. However, you do have the digital satellite navigation in the middle here. It kind of pops up, so I would have preferred it if it was a little down. Because it does hinder your line of sight with this because it's protruding. You do have the manual panels down here, and you also have the gear knob. This car comes with the 4-speed auto transmission. It's only 4-speed, so you'll have to bear with it when you're out on the highway. You also have some ambient lights here. You have these slots where you can put in your mobile phone or any charger, anything that needs a charger. It's not wireless charging though, so you do have to connect a wire to the USB ports and then charge. And then here you also have the glove box. It's not one of those pull-out drawer type ones. It's the conventional drop-down. However, there are some new functions that you couldn't see in this segment before. 2 different levels for the ventilation seat on the driver's seat. You also have adaptive cruise control system, the lane keep as well. This segment never had these kinds of functions before, so this is definitely a benefit for the Casper. One more thing, you can completely fold these seats like this, and if you need anything that is very long and you have to store it, you can completely make use of this. You can also use it as a bed because the second row seats fold completely down, and if you lay a mattress on it, then you can. But you know, you don't buy a car just to have a bed in it, but still you have that option. Now we're out on the road with Casper, and the first impression is that it's very bouncy. It's comfortable, but it's not one of those where you feel that it's very sturdy. Once again, line of sight is very clear. You have a lot of room. It's very tall, so it's very nice to drive. It doesn't feel like I'm driving an SUV, although they call it the smallest SUV in their lineup. It feels a little bit like a Picanto. I expect that when you're driving a car like this, you won't be racing and you won't need to really have that much torque. If you're one of those drivers that is saying that you only need the car just for grocery rounds, getting your kids to school, this is more than enough, and it's very comfortable too. The thing with these micro segment cars, the A segment, is that a lot of them have better comfort in the drive because people just normally assume that these smaller cars will be terrible to drive in. But in fact, it's not that bad. See, already you're hearing a lot of the wind noise, but then also from the noise from the roads as well. But it is impressive that they've put in a lot of functions and features into this small segment of a car. And now this vehicle also has two different drive modes. The normal, it doesn't have the eco, but it does have the sport. So if you turn on the sport, you get a little bit more power, but not significantly. So now that I have the engine on and we're sitting and we're idling, I mentioned that it picks up a lot of the vibrations from the road. And even when you're just at a standstill, you feel a lot of the vibrations. That's probably because of the 3-cylinder system that it has and because it's this small segment of the mini segment. So now that it's gotten slightly darker, it's around 5:30 in the afternoon, now you see the ambient lights inside the car a little bit better. We looked at whether this could be adjusted to a different color, but it turns out that it only allows you to get this one color. So yeah, the car has a bit of a difficulty getting up to a certain speed and revving up. I did expect that because it was the same with the Picanto when we first tested it out. So now this model is 100 PS, horsepower. The Picanto that we tested before, the yellow one, was actually 76 PS, but I don't feel that this one is that much better. You don't really expect this segment to have that much horsepower, but nevertheless, you can totally feel that it has a difficult time accelerating. And after you step on the brakes, and then if you try to accelerate back again, then that is very sluggish in the transition between decelerating and accelerating. Oh, this is fun. Below the drive mode, you also have the traction. And in the traction, you can select snow, mud, and sand. We're currently on sand right now, gravel. So having this kind of function is pretty surprising for such a small car. So now I'm sitting in the second row seats, and surprisingly, it's actually very comfortable. And there's a lot of functions for the second row seats, actually. We can actually adjust the seats back and forth, and so we have a lot of legroom if I push it back. Of course, you won't be able to use that much of the trunk if you do so, but still, it gives me so much more legroom. And if you want to recline, then you can do this as well. So there's a lot of things that you can play around with the second row seats. It's quite effective and it comes in handy. One slight drawback, there's no armrest in the middle. So guys, what did you think about our review of the Hyundai Casper? I personally wasn't blown away or too impressed, but I did like the new features on this micro segment or the A segment. So please tell us what you think down on the posts and remember to click subscribe. See you next time.